everybody, it's Romania Black, and I just got back from seeing the Super Mario Brothers movie. I don't ever really do commentary or videos like this, but I had wanted to see the Super Mario Brothers movie because Super Mario Brothers is one of the only games I've honestly ever really played, and my brother was begging me to come see it with him, and I haven't been to the movie theaters in nearly a year, so we thought, what the heck, we'll see the movie, and believe it or not, on a Thursday night at 6 p.m., my brother and I had the entire theater to ourselves to watch the Mario Brothers movie, which was any movie critic, movie lover's dream. There was nobody on their phones. There was nobody like getting popcorn in your hair. We had the entire movie theater to ourselves. We could pick out the best seats and we could talk to each other throughout the movie, making commentary, and it wasn't going to annoy people. It was the best experience for a sibling duo to have that are in love with classic video game characters such as Mario. And so I kind of wanted to do this video because of a couple things. One, because people in the Discord have been talking about going and seeing it and asking if I'd seen it or what I thought about it. But also because I had heard from Twitter and there's been a big discourse about the critical reaction to this movie versus the audience reaction, the mainstream layperson's reaction to Mario, with the joke being that critics hate this movie and that moviegoers enjoy it. And so I feel like I wanted to come at it from the perspective of both somebody that on this channel reviews things through a slightly critical analysis. I ship like crazy, but through a slightly critical analysis because I'm a teacher and that's what I do, but also as somebody that grew up playing Mario 1, 2, and 3 on the original Nintendo, played Mario Kart on the Nintendo 64, and then dabbled in Mario Sunshine when the Dreamcast first came out, or when the GameCube first came out. And so I feel like I wanted to talk to it from that perspective because coming out of this movie and watching it, I feel as if I'm kind of torn because I get why critics wouldn't like this film, but then I get why people that love the video game would like this film. So, to talk about this movie, and I don't know how much I'll talk about it or how long this is going to be, but first of all, before I start, spoilers. There's gonna be spoilers through the movie. So if you've not seen this movie yet and you're wanting to avoid spoilers, just come back and watch this video after you've seen it, and we can talk. But yeah, having seen it, I do want to talk, and we can comment down below about this. I feel like it could be fun. But yeah, I wanted to come at this from a frame of reference because before I saw this movie, the only spoilery image I had seen was Bowser in a white tuxedo. And I thought, oh, they're going to take this movie and not just reference the video games, but reference one of the very first graphic novels I ever got as a kid that I hold near and dear to my heart. And that is the Super Mario Adventures. This comic thing is the reason I probably have this channel, the reason I read manga, the reason I love graphic novels, the reason why I love reading this medium is because of this book. Now, this is a fairly new version. This came out, this printing of it came out. It's from 1993, but this is a newer edition of it. I don't know what edition this is. This is the first printing from October 2016. This is actually not the first printing. I had this way back in the 90s, right? I had the original 1993 version of this when I was a kid. When I was like literally, I would have been 5 years old when I had the original 1993 copy that came out. I remember getting it and I was obsessed. I mean, it was tore, it was frayed, there were smudge marks on the pages where I'd read it so many times, the pages were starting to come undone. I lived for this book. And when my family moved when I was 12, it got lost in the moving and I was devastated. And because that would have been back in 2002. And so I did not have a copy of this book and I went for years thinking I'll never get another copy. I tried to find some on eBay, but they were like hundreds of dollars at that point because they were out of print. I was like, So in 2016, when this original printing came back out, this first edition, I was like, nope, snatching it up. And here it is. But when I saw that image of Bowser, I thought, oh, they're going to adapt the comic because that's what they would do, right? And as I was watching the movie, I was like, well, they're adapting parts of it, but they're changing parts of it and incorporating a lot of different things. But I will argue that there's a reason that critics probably don't like this movie, and we'll touch base on it. But I actually think the Mario movie, after going back through this tome of my childhood, I realized that the Mario Brothers movie is actually adapting a lot from this, and the things that they do adapt actually make a lot of sense and are done well, and the things they don't adapt, if they're thinking about a sequel, might be something to touch base on. So I'm just going to go ahead and say what I think why the critics think the way that they do about this movie and hate it. First and foremost, if you have never watched Mario or played the games or have any idea, I feel like Mario and his brother Luigi are in the zeitgeist enough of popular culture that you at least know what they look like. And you're like, oh, they're from a video game. Okay. That you have some inkling of what they are. But honestly, if you've never played the games or read the comic, you will probably not understand this movie because this movie expects you to know pretty much who these characters are. And even if you don't, they try to like frame it and starting in Brooklyn and like, oh, they're the Mario Brothers. And they try to like make a joke that the accents are fake and that the stereotypical Italian accents are done for the cheesiness of marketing. And they try to like put kind of a funny, cynical spin on it. And it works. It works really well. But if you had no clue about the games, you would think this movie does not take enough time to go through anything. I think that's obviously, I've not read a lot of the critic reviews, but I can imagine critics saying that there is not enough time. It's only an hour and hour and 30 minutes. It's a really short movie, which I get why they made it short, because what happens if it flopped, right? What if you made a 2 hour and 30 minute movie and then it flopped and you're like, well, those millions of dollars were a bust. But it's a very short movie and it moves insanely fast. They do not have a lot of time to focus on any one specific element for too long. It's like, let's move. If you have a short attention span, this movie will be great for you because you don't stay in one place very long. And I can see a lot of critics finding that problematic because you don't have a lot of time to develop your characters or develop their relationships because you're moving so quickly. But the thing of it is, the movie is relying upon the fact that you know these characters, you already know their relationships, you know how they've interacted in the games, so you don't need that character build because you already know it exists. So if you're a critic watching this movie who's never played the games, has no clue about the Mario franchise, or has no idea about all of the many references throughout it, then yeah, you're probably going to be like, oh, Peach was like, okay, let's go rescue your brother. I've known you for 30 seconds. Let's go. Or, hey, Donkey Kong, we just met. Are we best friends now? You know, like stepbrother style. So if you had no clue about the Mario universe or the relationships that were pre-developed before this movie, then yeah, you probably think like none of this feels authentic or earned. And so I could see a critic really getting onto that. That's probably my biggest qualm in the movie, is that it doesn't spend enough time to really let anything soak in. It's so fast paced that you don't just sit around and it's not like, I felt like I was thinking the whole time I was watching it, I went, man, this is so different than any of the anime that I'm watching right now. Because the anime I'm watching right now have moments where characters sit down and they talk and they have little moments and everything sinks in and that emotion kind of like you get a feel for it. But going back when I got home before I sat down to record this, I went back to this comic because I felt a little let down when I first got out of the theater. I was like, oh, well, thinking those things that the critics thought, that there wasn't time to have those little moments. And in my head, nostalgia started to play games with me. And I started to think, oh, well, back in the comic, there were all of these scenes. And then when I went back and actually read the comic, no, there's really not. The comic is as fast paced as the movie. But again, the comic is relying upon the fact as well that you know who these characters are. You've played the game. You've seen enough iterations of them throughout the years that you understand where they're coming from. And even though this was published in 1993 and kind of set the stage for these characters, it's still relying upon some in-game humor that you should know if you've played the game. And if you've not, you won't get the joke, right? So I gotta give the movie credit that it doesn't stray away from that kind of run and gun style if you're looking at it from a critical angle. If you're wanting some major substance and some heartfelt development between Bowser and Peach or Bowser and Luigi, you're not gonna get it. But that may not be the point of why you're watching this movie. So with that out of the way, I wanted to kind of touch base on the major positives of the movie. The animation is really good. I love the animation in it. It's lush. It's beautiful. I read somewhere that some of the CGI is weird, so I was looking for that in the movie, and I didn't notice it. I thought it was pretty consistent and well done throughout. As far as the in-joke references, the in-game references, there are so many. And what I like is that a lot of them are just in the background. Like as you go through the scenes, things are happening with the plot. But if you look to the background, you'll see different little things. Like there's a shop early on that have little icons and tokens you can get from the boxes in Mario 3. So that was really cute. There's a little scene where you see the islands of Yoshi's. Now, there is an end credit scene with the Yoshi egg. I'm like, okay, if they do a sequel, are they going to have Yoshi in it? Because I was waiting for Yoshi and we never really got him. So I'm like, okay, sequel bait. You can do that. And as much money as this movie is likely made, they could easily do a sequel. They leave a lot of things left unsaid. They show Mario in the Tanuki suit. They show him in the cat suit. They show him in like getting the red mushroom, the blue mushroom. But they don't show him like the frog suit or some of like the more novel things, like the niche things that they could really do in the future if they wanted to. One complaint I did have with the film is that they make the powers really cool, like the power-ups. Like, I love the fire flower. The fire flower, there's a scene with Peach and the fire flower that is beautiful. The animation's like, mwah. And then Donkey Kong gets the fire flower and it looks really cool. And for the most part, like, they make the power-ups match the actual in-game usage until they don't. Like, at one point, the fire flower gets blown out, and I'm like, that wouldn't happen. And then there's some other times where actions happen that you're like I kept wanting the fisherman Koopa to like reel somebody in off Rainbow Road. I thought that would be cool. But there's a couple times where, and I had to apologize to my brother because I was complaining about it in the climax of the film. Bullet Bill is launched and goes down towards the Mushroom Kingdom, and Bullet Bill is stopped and changes its trajectory. And I was having like an old millennial grandpa moment being like, well, back in the day, Bullet Bill was a straight line and he didn't change trajectories. And my brother was like, yeah, in Mario Odyssey, you can control Bullet Bill, and it kind of does. And I was like, well. Because honestly, after Mario Sunshine and Mario Party and Mario Tennis and Mario Wii, I've not played a lot of the newer Mario games like Mario Odyssey, so I did not know that. And I was like, oh, I know there's a monkey that steals hats, so maybe they could do that in a sequel. I don't know. But a lot of the cool references are things that are in this comic. So I did have to apologize to my brother about the Bullet Bill thing. But going through this comic, if you've not gotten this and you're a Mario fan, please get it. It is absolutely a treasure. But the whole comic starts out with Mario and Luigi just plopped into the Mushroom Kingdom and they're just fixing pipes. There are no explanations of why there are humans in the Mushroom Kingdom. There's nothing. It's just assumed. And so we just, as the readers, have to accept that. But the characterizations of Mario and Luigi are pretty spot on. And I do like in the movie that they explain that Peach got there on accident from the human world and the Toadstools all just took her in. I thought that was a cute and clever little plot development. I'm like, I like that. I think it works. At first, I didn't understand why Toad was like very one note in his character development. And then my brother was telling me like different games and iterations where that was spot on with Toad's character. And I was like, okay, I'll give you that. That works. But one thing that I really, really appreciated, even from the moment that Bowser comes on the screen, is that I could see some critics being like, Bowser, has he always been that flamboyant and eccentric? Yes, he has been. Jack Black does a great job as Bowser. Bowser, from the get-go in the comic, was trying to get Peach to marry him and sings songs in the comic. He sings a song. We'll talk about the Koopalings. We'll talk about them. But he sings a song about Peach marrying him, and Peach is like, no. So that was all very spot on from the comic. Jack Black was perfectly cast to be him because he could not only be menacing with a deep, threatening voice, but he could also sing a ballad about peaches, and it fits the comic. It fits the character so well. I love it. Now, of course, Bowser he doesn't have the big warship that he does in the movie, but I liked that the movie made the warship there, and it was very epic. It was like, normally in the comic, Bowser's just in this little floaty egg, kind of like Dr. Robotnik from Sonic, and I liked the upgrade that it got. The opening scene is the penguin scene from the trailer, and it's still as funny as it was in the trailer. Honestly, what stole the show for me was Illumina from Rosalina's Rosalina's world. Oh my god, that little nihilistic star was the funniest damn thing in the whole movie. I was laughing my butt off and be like, finally, mercy. Like it had the darkest humor and I was eating it up. I was like, yes, any like dry, dark humor, I will gobble it up. And that little star was absolutely hilarious. So another thing I could see critics kind of being sort of like about would be the fact that Peach is like the gung-ho girl power Peach. But honestly, in the 1993 comic, Peach very much is the same thing. She like bounces around, she leads the Toadstools into attacking the Koopa army. Like she is just as badass in the comic as she is on the screen here. And I would argue that the comic version isn't quite as progressive and fun as the new version. One upgrade that I like that happened in the movie versus the comic is when we actually do get to the wedding that happens at the climax of the film. When we actually get to the wedding, one thing that I like is that in the comic, Peach is hypnotized. She's hypnotized by the magician. By comic, she's hypnotized by him to fall in love with Bowser, which is kind of like a tried and true damsel in distress trope, and Mario has to be the one to save her. And that's fine for the comic, but I do like the movie upgraded it to where Peach always had a plan and used like the ice flower to try to like break Luigi and them free. I liked that. I thought it was a fun upgrade. It worked really well. It made for a good fight scene. And I liked that in the end, Mario, yeah, I mean, in the comic, Mario and Peach, like, he gives her a little kiss on the cheek, or she gives him a little kiss on the cheek, and it's really cute. I like that the movie doesn't necessarily need to have, like, a reward for Mario, for, like, because Bowser in the whole movie makes a big deal. He's like, oh, does she find him attractive? I'm like, I don't know. I was like, Bowser, you've been held up with Luigi. What do you think? But I like the fact that at the end, there's no like trophy or prize, or there doesn't have to be an exchange of a romantic gesture because Mario helped Peach out. In the end, Mario and Luigi decide to like work in the Mushroom Kingdom, and maybe he gets with Peach, maybe he doesn't. Who knows? But it doesn't have to be established. I liked that. I thought that was a fun twist. The one thing I do regret is that, man, there is this giant, beautiful, they use the Yoshis in the comic to make this really over-the-top giant cake. And the cake is like its own platform. And I kind of wanted that to be in the movie because it looks so awesome in the actual comic. But I think the final stage for the climax works really well. Now, in the comic, there's no Donkey Kong. No Donkey Kong in the comic. So the fact that Seth Rogen plays Donkey Kong and we have Cranky Kong and Diddy Kong makes a cameo, it's fine. I honestly liked the use narratively that we have Diddy Kong Racing and Donkey Kong Racing from the start. They have the Miami Vice gorilla come in and take them to wherever Donkey Kong is. I liked it was kind of clever that they used the Diddy Kong Racing and tied it into Mario Kart, and that's the logical jump they made, that, in the jungle world, they use transportation like these go-karts and motorcycles, so when it's time for them to go try to ambush Bowser's army, they have the go-karts from Mario Kart and motorcycles and things like that. That was clever. I liked it. I did think that Donkey Kong fighting Mario, even though it was a really fun scene, it did kind of feel like Thor Ragnarok. Just a wee bit, especially with Chris Pratt voicing Mario. It felt a little bit like Thor Ragnarok. Just a wee bit. But it works. It works. It was given a little bit of Avengers vibe, but it's fine. Speaking of which, as far as Chris Pratt goes playing Mario, he's fine. I only noticed a few times it was Chris Pratt, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like something he would say in Guardians of the Galaxy, or how he inflects what he was saying. But he was fine. Didn't mind him at all. I loved Luigi was probably my favorite in terms of character design. Charlie Day is perfect for voicing Luigi. He sounds like him. The cadence was fine. I believed he was Luigi. I didn't think that it was Charlie Day throughout the film. I was like, oh, that sounds like Luigi. And for some reason, every time they animated Luigi, he looked freaking adorable. He looked so cute. It's like his facial expressions were all scared and concerned, and it was very cute, right? Ann Taylor-Joy, that plays Peach, I believe that's her name. She does a great job as Peach. I liked her. Keegan playing Toad is probably the weirdest celebrity voice choice. You wouldn't know it's Keegan from listening to him. It's fine too. And then Jack Black as Bowser is great. So the voice cast was fine. Nobody stood out as being a celebrity. It didn't feel like a celebrity voicing a character with the exception of Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, I feel, is a little bit miscast. I don't know. You can make the argument. It works. I didn't have any complaints about it, but I thought, well, that could have been cast different, but it worked fine. Now, that being said, there are some things from the comic there are two specific things from the comic that I wish had been incorporated into the movie. The fact that we didn't have Yoshi is fine. If you're going to use that for sequel bait, it's fine. But honestly, whenever I saw that picture of Bowser with the white tux and I thought of this comic book, I instantly wanted the Koopa children. I love that aspect of the comic. Like, you have Wendy. Wendy Koopa hates Peach. She has like a jealousy thing because Wendy's the only girl in the group, and then Peach shows up and he hates it and she hates it. But you have all the Koopa kids that are kind of incorporated into this. And the reason why I really wanted them in this movie is because I could see critics and all of them saying, well, why does Bowser want Peach to rule alongside him other than that she's pretty? Like, why would he want her when she clearly hates him? And in the comic, they established that Bowser is a single dad and he wants a mom for his kids. He wants someone to help be a mother to his bratty children. And it's kind of messed up and kind of ridiculous, and it fits the chaotic tone of the series so well, especially the comic. And so I like that one of Bowser's reasons for getting Peach to marry him isn't just because she's pretty, because I'm like, he's a turtle. What? Does he even think she's pretty because she's a human? How does that work? Are turtles attracted to humans? How does that work? But it's the fact that she could be a mom to the Koopa kids, and the Koopa kids don't really care. So it kind of creates a joke out of that. And I feel like there was a missed opportunity. But that being said, my brother and I talked about it, and we were like, with it only being an hour and a half long, there was no time to fit them in. Just not. So my brother and I had the crazy idea that maybe if they do a sequel and you have Yoshi and all that, that you could have the scenario where the Koopa kids show up and break their dad out of the Mushroom Kingdom. They get him to escape, and that's how they save him. Which would be fun, and then that could introduce Wendy Koopa to Princess Peach. That could get that animosity going, that dynamic, and then maybe from there Bowser's like, oh, you kids need a mom. What if we try to get Peach again? And he hasn't given up on her, because in the end credits scene, he's still singing the song. He's not giving up on her, so maybe. But you open the doors to a lot of things. At the very end of the comic, there's a whole thing of Mario meeting Wario. Now, how you would incorporate Wario into this story, since, how you would do that, since in the movie, Mario and Luigi are from the real world. I don't know how you would do that, but you could probably find a way. He's like their cousin or something, him and Waluigi. They're like their cousins, or like a negative version of themselves get created somehow, right? But honestly, the only other part, and this is just me wanting to be self-indulgent, the only other part I was really sad wasn't in the series is that from the get-go, and this is before I feel like this was the inspiration for Luigi's Mansion, is that Mario and Luigi, they get tricked into going into a mansion and come across the booze. In the movie, it's the Shy Guys instead of the booze, which is fine. The Shy Guys are a fun concept. I like them. But in the comic, it's the booze. And of course, Luigi is freaked out. And the funny thing is they get the booze to get on their side by pretending to be like psychiatrists. And it's the most bizarre thing, but they get to be psychiatrists, and they find out that the boos are actually really traumatized and troubled, and they just need somebody to talk to about their issues. And nobody wants to talk to them because they're ghosts and they run away. And so Mario and Luigi sit there and have a therapeutic session with the boos, and they end up helping them go to find Peach in the end. So that's one of my favorite parts of this comic, because the anime style makes it look so wondrous, but the fact that it wasn't in the movie did not take away my enjoyment from it. I still really liked it. And honestly, against all odds, there's a Neon Genesis Evangelion reference in the movie. If you watch the movie, there's a scene where Mario and Luigi, again, spoilers, if you've made it this far in the video, you know about the spoilers. They end up getting the Star of Invincibility. They both become invincible. And then Mario and Luigi do this beautiful synchronized dance to stop Bowser and smash him into his own castle. And the choreographed dance, it felt very reminiscent of the Dance Dance Revolution episode of Neon Genesis. And I was like, oh, in the theater, I was like, oh, it's a Neon Genesis reference. And my brother was like, what? And so I really appreciated that. But I guess my point in making this 30-minute long review of the Super Mario Brothers movie is that it's just fun. if you're going into, honestly, I think a lot of the audience backlash against the critics have been like, what did you expect? Because, yeah, even though I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, well, it needs to be held up to a higher standard. You could definitely say that. But at its core, at its heart, if you go back through the original comics, like, even though I view this as being one of the best aspects of my childhood, and I grew up reading this over and over and over again, the thing about it is it's pure pathos. It is pure saturated colors, humor that's just in your face, and just chaotic fun that doesn't need an explanation. And that's basically the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's fast-paced, it's loud, saturated, the humor is in your face, and it doesn't have to give a reason for why characters do the things that they do. It's just in good fun. And it's just to have a good time and watch it. So if you're trying to I had to kind of get outside of myself once I thought about it in that light and say, okay, are you really going to treat this movie with like a serious critical analysis lens? Or are you going to sit back and be like, okay, let's just enjoy it for what it is and have fun and feel nostalgic with it? And I think if you do that, you'll really, really enjoy it. If you try to look at it critically, you will find many, many faults with it. Many things, like there is dialogue that feels very on the nose and kind of contrived and forced. And you're like, okay, we're trying to say, like, stating the obvious. And it's kind of cringy a little bit, but it's easy to look past. If you're trying to say that some of the relationships and bonds feel really rushed, yeah, it's only an hour and 30 minutes, but again, the film is determining and banking on the fact that you know these characters and you know the games they've been in and you can connect the dots. So that being said, I did enjoy the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's not a film to critically analyze, and you could do a reaction for it, I guess, but if you were going to get down to the nitty gritty, I think you might make yourself angry. So I'm glad I just went and watched it as a regular audience viewer and enjoyed it. My brother and I had a lot of fun with it. We were talking about different scenarios for the sequel if they do it. If it makes enough money, I'm sure it will. And I voiced my complaints to him that I told you all at the beginning of this video. But he was like, but this was like this in this game, and this was like this in this game. And I'm like, okay, I was not giving the creators enough benefit of the doubt because they had done their research, and I was the one stuck, in the past a little bit. So I don't know. It was a beautiful movie, and it was a lot of fun. So if you get a chance to go and see it on the big screen, I think it is worth it. But if you're wanting something that's got like a bunch of heart and emotion, and it's going to make you like your heart swell with emotion and make you cry, this is not going to be that movie. It is literally a popcorn flick that is meant to induce nostalgia, remind you of the Super Mario Brothers games, and just be a really fun romp that you can be like, oh, that was cute, I liked that. But if you're looking for something that really get your emotions stirred, this is not that, not at all. So yeah, but I was very much viewing these comics with the nostalgia goggles on, and when I went back and read them and realized how much this movie actually did pay homage to this and how much it was like it, I've had a much deeper appreciation of it afterwards. So if you don't have this, you need to get it. If you like Mario Brothers and you don't have this comic, get it. It's worth it. It's amazing. But if you've not seen the Super Mario Brothers movie and you just want something fun to watch, I highly encourage you to find a time when nobody's watching it and go see it in a theater by yourselves. It's great! But in any case, this is kind of different than anything I've done on this channel, so I hope you all enjoyed my 30-minute ranting about this movie and how I liked it and enjoyed it, and my thoughts about how I think I can see where critics are coming from, but then at the same time, it's like, what'd you expect? So you knew what you were getting when you walked in to see this movie, and it could have been a lot worse. Let me say that. When I saw Illumination was doing it, because I don't like the Minions at all. That is like a farce humor that's a little too lowbrow for me. But I was really worried that this was going to be like really, really like crude, like vulgar humor like the Minions, and I was going to be like, ugh. Or dumb humor, and it was not. It was not that. So I was pleasantly surprised. I was going to be like the little Illumina star, but I ended up not being. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this. If you get a chance to see it, that's great. But if you want to save your money and wait for streaming, I think that'd be all right too. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon, y'all, with more reactions. Take care, guys. Bye.